All right, let's talk about something that can drive you absolutely crazy. An itch that you can't see. It's one of the most maddening feelings, right? So many of us have been there, but most of us have no idea what's actually going on.
Yeah, that one. The one where you're scratching and scratching at perfectly clear skin, and you start to wonder, am I just imagining this? Well, I am here to tell you it is very, very real, and it has a name.
Medically, it's called pruritus. And listen, it's not just a small annoyance. This can seriously mess with your sleep, your concentration, your entire quality of life. When there's no rash, it feels like a real mystery. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Play detective and solve it.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start on the outside and work our way in. First, we'll look at the skin itself, the most common culprits. Then, we'll take a peek inside the medicine cabinet. After that, we'll dig a little deeper for clues coming from inside your body. And finally, we'll get to the really wild stuff, when your own nerves are sending false alarms. Then we'll wrap it all up with what you can actually do about it. Okay, let's jump right in. We're starting with the prime suspect, the single most common reason for this invisible irritation. And honestly, the answer is probably a lot simpler than you think.
That's it. The number one cause, most of the time, is just plain old dry skin. The fancy medical term is xerosis, but it really just means your skin is thirsty. You know how it is in the winter, or if you live somewhere with no humidity? Your skin loses moisture and can start screaming itch long before you ever see a single flake.
But hey, the good news is you can fight back with some really simple steps. First, dial down the temperature on your showers. Hot water feels great, but it strips all the natural oils from your skin, so go lukewarm. And here's the key. Right after you get out, pat yourself dry and get that moisturizer on within 3 minutes to trap the water in. Also, take a look at your environment. A humidifier can be a total game changer. So can wearing soft cottons instead of scratchy wool, and maybe switching to a laundry detergent that's free of all those perfumes.
So, what if you're moisturizing like crazy and you're still itchy? Well, the next clue might be hiding in plain sight right there in your medicine cabinet.
This is something called drug-induced pruritus, and it is so tricky. Why? Because the itch doesn't always start the second you take a new pill. It could pop up hours, days, or even weeks later. And what's really frustrating is that sometimes the itch can hang around for a while, even after you stop the medicine.
And just look at how common these medications are. We're talking about really widely used stuff. Opioids for pain, statins that millions of people take for cholesterol, and all sorts of common blood pressure medicines.
And the list just keeps going. It also includes some antibiotics, common diabetes drugs like metformin, and even certain antidepressants. So, the big takeaway here is pretty clear. If you have an unexplained itch, you should always review your full list of medications.
All right, so we've looked at the outside world and the things we put in our bodies. Now, let's turn our investigation inward, because sometimes an itch is a signal from much deeper inside.
29%. Get this. A really fascinating study looked at a group of people with that chronic, unexplained itch, and they found that nearly a third of them had one very specific thing in common.
And here's what it was: low iron. That's right, 29% of them had depleted iron stores, specifically low serum ferritin, which is the protein your body uses to store iron. And it wasn't a fluke. The study found a direct link. The lower a person's iron, the more severe their itching was.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. You can see it right there. The researchers rated how bad the itch was, and the group with low iron had significantly higher itch scores than the group with normal levels. It's a pretty dramatic difference.
Now, low iron isn't the only internal clue. Other organs can send out itchy signals too. With kidney disease, for example, your body has trouble filtering out waste products, and that buildup in your blood can cause an itch all over. Liver disease is different. The itch is often tied to poor bile flow, and it can show up in a really specific way, sometimes being the most intense on the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet.
And there are other internal conditions to think about. Thyroid disorders can throw your whole system, including your skin, out of whack. And in some rare cases, a persistent itch can actually be a symptom of something more serious, like Hodgkin's lymphoma. A very peculiar clue for that one is an itch that gets much worse after a hot bath or after drinking alcohol.
Okay, we've talked about skin, medications, and our internal organs. Now, for our final category, let's talk about the body's wiring. What happens if the problem isn't your skin or your blood, but the nerves themselves?
This is the absolute best way to think about it. A neuropathic itch isn't caused by anything on your skin.
It's caused by damage or a malfunction in the nervous system. The nerves are essentially misfiring, sending a false alarm to your brain that says itch when there's no real reason to.
And a number of things can cause this kind of nerve damage. Diabetes is a big one because high blood sugar over time can really hurt those nerve fibers. Shingles is the classic example. The itch often starts before any rash appears because the virus is attacking the nerve first. Even a pinched nerve, a stroke, or a condition like MS can create these phantom itches. And the really tough part is that scratching them usually provides no relief at all.
So we have covered a ton of ground here, all the way from dry air to faulty nerves. With all these possibilities flying around, the big question is, what do I do now? So let's turn all this information into a real action plan.
Here's when you need to stop guessing and go see a doctor. If you've been trying all the home care tricks for dry skin and the itch is still there after 2 weeks, it's time. You should also pay really close attention to these red flags. If the itch is so bad it's waking you up at night, if it's all over your body, if it just came on suddenly for no reason, or, and this is super important, if it comes along with other symptoms like fatigue, losing weight, fever, or night sweats. Please don't ignore those signs.
At the end of the day, an invisible itch is so much more than just an annoyance. It's a message. Your skin, your body's biggest organ, is sending you a signal. It's trying to get your attention. So the real question is, are you ready to stop scratching and start listening?